All right, everybody, welcome to Gen X News. I am doing a follow-up show today. Oh, there's a hair on my microphone. Let's get that one off. We're doing a follow-up show, kind of a follow-up show, a little more in depth on the Trudeau family because of the Patrick Bet-David interview with Annika. What was her name again? Annika. Darn it, I forgot her name. She was on his show recently. Her first name is Annika, and she was on his show talking about basically being a sex slave and abused for satanic elites. And of course, she mentions Monsieur Pierre Elliot Trudeau, which is allegedly Justin Trudeau's father. And of course, we're going to get into that. First, I'm going to talk about what just happened in South Korea before we get in there. But before we get anywhere, we're going to do a little caveat today. We're going to say, look, all of these things that we're talking about today, or I'm talking about, are allegations. Pierre Elliot Trudeau is not here to defend himself. He's no longer alive. So we're going to look at them as allegations, give a benefit of the doubt. We're going to show her story and what she's talking about. And keep in mind, these are allegations. I cannot, prove the smoking gun that it actually happened. We just have people's stories, and we can kind of corroborate and tie them in at different locations, and we'll have a look at all of that. So just to get that out of the way. Okay, we are streaming live, of course, on X, YouTube, and Rumble, and I encourage you to subscribe on one of those three platforms if you want to catch it live. Or, of course, there's the audio form that gets uploaded across all the podcast platforms, the audio podcast later on. So, of course, on YouTube, follow me. Type in Melissa Dawn at Gen X News. You'll find me there. That's Melissa Dawn at Gen X News. On X, it's simply at Gen X News on X. So at Gen X News on X, you can follow me there. That is where the majority of people are. I have a growing, healthy audience over there. Rumble. If you want to follow me on Rumble, it's simply rumble.com/c/GenX on X. And of course, all of the links are on the website, which is genxonx.com. If you go to the website, you'll find links to the podcast, the audio podcasts, and all of the live stream. So now that we got that out of the way, what the heck just happened today in South Korea? Something I wasn't expecting. At first, I was getting all like, what is it? Is it a coup? Is it the deep state? Like, who's involved in this? I'm going to remain calm, and I'm just going to tell you what I know straight up. The president of South Korea was Yoon Suk Yeol. And I believe what happened was he called out martial law and basically got the military to pursue his political opponent, to arrest him and other political figures. And there was total chaos for a good 6 hours. And what led up to that, from my understanding, and I could be wrong, is this man, and now in South Korea, they have a prime minister and a president. So the prime minister is Han Duck-soo, and their president is Yoon Suk Yeol. I know it sounds very strange in our language, but that's how it is. And so apparently Yoon Suk Yeol has a very fragile grip on, the politics there. And from what I understand, was he impeached? I think he might have impeached. Anyways, his opponent, his political opponent, called him out, said he was no longer the leader, and it was voted that there would be no martial law. He called for a vote for martial law, saying that his opponent was essentially, a dissident, like going against the state. And so he called for martial law, and they voted it down. But he went and did it anyways. He went and did martial law anyways. I'm going to see here. I think Benny has a good video clip here. We'll show it to you. Now, he's called off the martial law, because the actual political opponent was streaming and videotaping his escape. He escaped the martial law and he was putting it online to show everybody what was happening. And so he had the military, as I understand it, pursue other people as well. And there was absolute total chaos. So let's look. I think Benny had a video of it. So we're going to see what Benny's showing, just so you can get a taste of some of the chaos. He's called off the martial law, and I don't know what this means or where this will go. But it just, I know a lot of people maybe in America are like, who cares? It's another country. But it just shows you why we don't give up our 2A. Why what they did to Donald Trump is so important to understand it in certain contexts, because there's some similarities here. So let's take a look at this video from Benny Johnson. Two of the podcasters I watch the most are Benny Johnson and Candace Owens. And I got a Candace Owens clip tonight too. She was hot on her show tonight. I don't mean hot, good looking, even though she is. I mean, she had that CIA agent on there again. And boy, you should be scared of the CIA. I am. Anyways, let's get to this and show a little clip of the martial law that was called out in South Korea, in the main city of Seoul. Yeah, that's it. Where they had the Olympics there. Okay, here we go.
Look at this woman, getting manhandled by special forces. Guy pointing a firearm at her. Jeez, dude.
Let's go forward. I think he has some more footage here. There they are.
I can't imagine what it would be like to have
Stewart.
to suddenly leave
Patrick,
my
you ruined
home.
my live stream.
Where to take?
Okay, here we go. They're entering in the building.
They're breaking in to try and arrest political leaders in Korea, the military.
They're breaking into, I don't know if
why
their
it's so important that
parliament.
we have a constitution, that we have a Second Amendment in this country?
Wow.
Look at this.
Can you imagine? And you don't
And it's
have
hard for us
guns?
to say,
You defend yourself. Oh my God.
It'd be hard for any Democrat to say anything against this, because this is what they did at Donald Trump's home.
Exactly. So is there other footage? I'm trying to get to the footage of his political opponent. There's footage of his political opponent streaming his escape. His political opponent escaped that scenario where they're breaking into all these buildings and escaped the militia, the martial law, the people who were pursuing him. Here we go. Here it is. I think this is it. Let's try it out.
On what is I don't know, man. What is this app? Maybe
He's trying to escape, and all the citizens are watching him live.
So it's shorts, right? So it's on YouTube. So is it live on YouTube? So he's live on YouTube.
He's live. He's live streaming his
This
escape.
is the leader of the opposition filming himself escaping the military hunting him down.
윤석열 대통령이 비상계엄을 선포했습니다. 비상계엄을 선포할 아무런 이유가 없습니다. 군대가 이 나라를 통치하게 내버려 둘 수는 없습니다. 검찰에 의한 이 폭력적 지배도 부족해서 총칼을 든 무장 군인들이 이 나라를 지배하려고 합니다. 그리고 국군 장병 여러분, 여러분에게 명령을 내릴 수 있는 것은 오로지 국민뿐입니다.
Only the people can give you orders.
윤석열 대통령은 국민을
President Yoon
배반했습니다.
Sik-yeol betrayed the people.
윤석열 대통령의
Illegal
불법적인
emergency
비상계엄
declaration.
선포는
It's like Justin Trudeau.
무효입니다.
It's invalid.
지금 이 순간부터
From this moment on,
윤석열
President Yoon
대통령은
Sik-yeol,
대한민국
I am not the
대통령이
president
아닙니다.
of the Republic of Korea. He's saying he's not. You guys, the
장병 여러분.
barriers, you guys.
여러분이
The
들고 있는
guns you hold, the
총,
swords
칼,
you hold,
여러분의
your
권력은
power.
모두
It all
국민에게서
comes
온
from the
것입니다.
people.
이 나라의 주인은
People are the
국민이고
masters of this country.
국군
The
장병
master
여러분께서
of whom all soldiers must obey.
It's hard to disagree with that.
So essentially, Yeah, he was trying to get rid of his political opponents after I think he might have been impeached. He's a really weak and ineffective leader, apparently. And so he's tried to use the military to pursue political opponents. Apparently, he's called it off. Let's see if we can get... I don't think I have... let's see if I can find... Yeah, he lifts the martial law order. I don't expect him to be in for much longer. It seems like a very desperate attempt to maintain control of people and politicians who have voted him basically a non-confidence or an impeachment. So it seems like a really, and I don't know if it's like Donald Trump where he was illegitimately impeached and people made up false things about him, about Russiagate. You know, all that stuff can happen. I'm not entirely sure, but it's some chaos going on. He's called it off, but I'm still going to pay attention to this and see what's happening. You know, South Korea is next to North Korea, and there's a lot of stuff going on in that area, and it will affect us. I know we might not know that, but I'm going to keep following up on this story, hopefully, and see what happens. But that's what happened in South Korea today. The president ignored the will of the people and used the military to pursue his political opponents. Freaking amazing. And I mean that not in a good way. Wow. This can happen. This could happen here. They tried to do it here. They've tried to weaponize the justice system. They didn't use the military that I know of yet, but I know Biden was trying to make it a law that the military could target citizens. That is so dishonest and disgraceful to have a military that will target its citizens. You know, and they've already made it law and shift around things Obama did so that they could use propaganda against citizens that before they could only use on other considered, I don't know, external countries that might be a threat to our country. They were allowed to do that. They were allowed to disseminate propaganda that way, but they weren't allowed to turn it on the American citizens. And Obama made it a lot easier for them to do because he knew what he was going to do to America would be considered treason. So he had to have propaganda. You have to have propaganda and turn it against your citizens. It's sad. So that's the end of that story. It's been called off. We'll wait and see what happens to President Yoon Suk Yeol. We'll see what happens to him. I'm about to cough here. Sorry, guys. I'm getting totally dry throat. I think this is a good time to have a drink. And I'm going to introduce you to a video clip. It's a good 3-minute video clip. And it is of Anik. I can't remember her name. I'm going blank. Annika Lucas. That's her name. She was on Patrick Bet David. And I'm going to show you. It's a nice 3-minute clip. Gives me time to get a drink. Gives some time for more people to stream in. I'm going to show you her claim. And this is a clip of Justin Trudeau, about Justin Trudeau's father. And then we'll get into the history of Pierre, Elliot, Trudeau, and other clips I have and information. So watch this clip. And I'm going to go have a drink, guys. Hold tight. Hold tight. Here we go.
All about cover-up. It was very, very good. All the investment, all the money goes, I mean, not all the money, but it goes a lot to the image.
You gave a couple other names to me earlier. I don't want to say it until you're comfortable. One of the names was another famous politician from the West.
Yeah.
How did you meet him?
He was also there that week.
He was also there that week.
Yeah, Pierre Trudeau.
And what was the interaction with you?
Scary.
Was his wife also involved or just him?
I didn't see his wife, or I don't know. I didn't see anybody else but him.
But you vividly remember him. And when did you know it was him later on? Because at the time you're 9, 10 years old.
Yeah, again, this came much, much later. I don't remember exactly when I realized that it was him.
You don't remember when he came to you later that it was Pierre?
No.
Justin Trudeau's father, right? That's who you were talking about.
Yes.
And I mean, you've never mentioned his name before, right? No. Trudeau. What was that relationship like, or the experience like? Was it a one-day thing? Was it a repetitive that happened?
All right, I'll tell you something. David Rockefeller had me trained as a spy. So I was a sex slave, of course, and I was an elite sex slave now. And I was trained as a spy through the mind control training. And so that week, I was sleeping with men, and then I would go report on their weaknesses or their sexual preferences to David Rockefeller.
Why did he need that information? Is that how to blackmail and use it later on in negotiation?
For example. Or if he knows what they want, then he can give it to them sexually. So about Trudeau, I said that I could never please him as long as I was alive. That's how scary that was.
You could never please him?
If I was alive.
With Trudeau?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
It means that he couldn't kill me because at that point I was not a throwaway child. And he scared me enough so that I then tell Rockefeller that that's what he wants a child to kill. Then you understand that the next time he can, if he wants to use that, he can use it. He can use that information.
Rockefeller.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a pretty big allegation. And when I first did the other show, I was talking about Justin Trudeau. His son could be Fidel Castro's son. We got the goods. But I was talking about his son linked to the Pickton Pig Farm. The Pickton Pig Farm being the site of a basically serial killer who was abducting girls from East Hastings Street, East End, Vancouver, prostitutes, a lot of them Native women, and bringing them back to that farm and murdering them, grinding them up, feeding them to the pigs, essentially. And so it's weird that Justin Trudeau was linked to possibly using that farm for access to girls, because that farm covered, it was literally running itself as a charity for kids, getting a lot of people in there, maybe even bikers and gangsters. There was a lot of stuff running there, and it's a little lower grade, but the woman, the sister who was running it, her brother was Robert Pickton, the serial killer. She was up in the Privy Council, and so she was up in government. And the RCMP refused to look at this case for the longest time. It's incredibly, incredibly disturbing. But that's a huge allegation to make. And so I am going to say it's an allegation. I don't know if it's true, but we're going to go and look at Pierre Elliot Trudeau and see, does this guy have this dark, sick, twisted past where he possibly wasn't just having sex with minors or trafficking young girls? Was he like a sociopath? Was he a psychopath? And I mean, it's possible. Anything's possible. You would never know. I mean, if they're trafficking young girls through all these countries now, you would never know. They could just go missing. Some of these girls that they traffic, they're not even recorded in any place anywhere. They're not even recorded as people that exist. They could be from orphanages. It makes you wonder, because and what's so deceptive about Pierre Elliott Trudeau is he had this persona, Trudeau mania, where he came into Canada. He changed the whole face of Canada. He really changed, some for the good and some for the bad, how Canada operated. And I'll never know a world before that. I was born in 77. He came to power in 68 for the first time. And now she talks about that. Annika Lucas talks about the Bilderberg Group a lot, and a lot of meetings, and her being funneled into some of these meetings. And she talks about a lot of the children are being, um, supplied to basically aristocrats across Europe. We're not even just talking your low-grade mayor or politician, maybe, but aristocrats and people in very powerful positions. So if you think aristocrats aren't around ruling things, you're wrong. They most certainly are, and they're influencing politics, and they've got a good guise to make you think that, you're voting and you've got democracy when they're, controlling everything. They're controlling every leader. And as she says, David Rockefeller has all, he's doing this. They're like little child honeypots, trying to get the goods on all these leaders. And it's quite disturbing. So we got the elites. I want to start off and look at who he was and what kind of politics he had. Pierre Elliot Trudeau. And we'll talk about the Bilderberg. I got a little clip about the Bilderberg and what it was in the meetings. And the Bilderberg meetings, they're kind of like the World Economic Forum. Their meetings always happen in Davos, but the Bilderberg changes different locations. And I went and looked this up. Let's see if we can, let's change our screen here again. Yeah, I've got it right here. I'm just going to change the image and we'll have a look at if our Mr. Pierre Trudeau, did he indeed attend a Bilderberg meeting? And of course, he did. 1968. Well, this was put in here in January 2010. I'm not sure where. Okay, so he did. He attended a Bilderberg meeting. This happened in April, and that's exactly when he became prime minister. He became prime minister at the beginning of April, and then he attends this Bilderberg meeting. Now, a lot of people say that they'll attend the Bilderberg meeting, and then they'll become president or prime minister or leader, but I'm sure we'll even go look. We'll look and see if he attended earlier ones, because there's a whole list of this. Now, this Bilderberg meeting happened at the Mont Tremblant Conference in Canada. I'm assuming that's somewhere in Quebec. It's a very French name. And as you can see, we can scroll down here. And Lester B. Pearson was there. That's the guy who was prime minister that Pierre Elliott Trudeau took over for. Let's see if we can find his name on this list. I'm pretty sure it was here. If not, that's not good. Well, it could have been a different year. It's so tiny, it's hard to see. I'm Paul Martin. Is this one the 1968? Yeah, Paul Martin. He was a member of the Liberal Party. He actually led it for a while. He was there. Pierre from France. France is a huge spy too. France spies on different countries and works for the United States. Lester B. Pearson. There's David Rockefeller. This might be the wrong list. I think it might have been. Let's go have a look here. I think that was the wrong one. I had it up here on my phone. I'm going to look at my phone here because I'm pretty sure. Bear with me, guys, because I'm pretty sure it was here. I feel like I'm in like the Twilight Zone because I'd isolated it, and yeah, there he is. He's at the bottom. So let's go back. He's right at the bottom. We almost missed him. They don't show the whole. They don't show the whole list. It's like, there it is. He's right there. Pierre Elliot Trudeau. He was in attendance in 1968. So he does go to these Bilderberg groups that she was trafficked to. Now, she's born in 1963. She's saying like by 5 or 6, she was getting involved in this. So it would have overlapped, but a lot of her activities happening when she's 8, 9, and 10 years old. It's so disturbing. But there you have it. And this site it's got all these different categories, but it's got the Bilderberg archive, Bilderberg participant list. So you can kind of see everybody who's ever participated in a Bilderberg meeting. Now let's see here if we can get something before 1968 that kind of puts him. They don't have them in order here. Let's see what happens in 1966, because Marceau, there's a lot of French people. Because of course, yeah, so he's not there in other years. But of course, Pierre Elliot Trudeau. Let's see what kind of comments we got. We got a few of you happening in the chat. Incognito, Genocide, Ivy, thank you guys for joining in the chat. So anyways, with Pierre Elliot Trudeau, we can tie him to Bilderberg. I'm not sure if it's overlapping with Annika, but some of the years she said she was there, David Rockefeller was definitely there. He was definitely in attendance. And like I said, they switched different locations. And we know in Davos, they bring sex trafficked women. They bring tons of prostitutes. It's just littered with sex galore, like crazy. And I think one of the things to know about Pierre Elliott Trudeau is when he started off in politics, you would think him being French Canadian, and he literally had ancestors who were like French farmers. He had, his father, I think, was more of a lawyer type, but he has ancestors who are French, who you think he would have been pro French nationalism in Canada. You think he would have been for that, but he wasn't, ironically enough. In fact, he was for globalism at a very early stage. The World Economic Forum, it existed in 1971, but not as the World Economic Forum. It was like a European Economic Forum that had the intentions of being, a global thing one day. And of course, it was started by Klaus Schwab. I haven't found any quite links to him yet, but it's being stated not just by Annika. It's being stated by another woman named Kathy O'Brien. I'll share that. Her name was Kathy O'Brien, and she wrote a book called Transformation of America, and it was called Trance, like Trance. Her name was Kathy O'Brien. She wrote the book in 1995. She was an MK Ultra survivor, and she stated that many world leaders, including Pierre Trudeau and Brian Mulroney, are pedophiles. She says she's met them over the course of her life, and she was a sex slave trained, along with her young daughter, to service high-profile politicians. There's other sources, apparently, that support Kathy O'Brien's allegations. So there's another woman that has come out way back in the 90s talking about the MK Ultra program and how they program these sex slaves to serve politicians. And of course, in David Rockerfield's instance, he's programming them as spies. And of course, we know that they possibly even use this to program in America, maybe even Canada, to program assassins. People who would you could call them, say some words, and they would flip and carry out the job, and then they would forget everything they ever did. One of the things I found really disturbing and rather I don't know, it's disturbing, but one of the uses they use is pain and trauma. And when they can put your mind in this area of pain and trauma, especially when you're younger, and they can get you in that emotional place, that's where they can do the programming. So there's a lot of torture that happens. That's why they torture people in MK Ultra, because that helps break the mind down and make you more suggestible. That's why they do these false flags and these psyops on us. It's to put us in a traumatic emotional state like 9/11. And they play it over and over and over again in our minds because it literally makes us paranoid. That's what they did with the pandemic. And I'm pretty sure that's what they intended to happen with the assassination of Donald Trump attempt. The assassination attempt is to let you see it live, traumatize you so they can program some other message like Iran did it. Or, so they could go and do their war um, on Iran or whatever other agendas they have globally. Incognito says Klaus Schwab and Henry Kissinger started WEF. Yes, they did. Henry Kissinger. The other thing to note it, all these guys were about multiculturalism. And now you're like, okay, Melissa, what's wrong with multiculturalism? Oh, well, they're saying it's failed now. But they did a sneaky sort of swap with multiculturalism. What they started to do, and I was getting into this, I'm going all over the place now, but I was talking about how Pierre Elliot Trudeau began his career as a radical. He began his career as a radical, and he was schooled, and I'm going to flip this little thing up here so you can see it. Pop me into this screen where I'm not sharing that one, and I'll pop that one back up. And if you read it, he studied at the Institut Politique du Paris. The Harvard dissertation remained unfinished when Trudeau briefly entered a doctoral program to study under the socialist economist Harold Lasky at the London School of Economics. This cemented Trudeau's belief in Keynesian economics and social sciences were essential to a good life in a democratic society. Over a 5-week period, he attended many lectures and became a follower of personalism after being influenced most notably by Emmanuel Mounier. He was also influenced by Nikolai Berdyaev, particularly his book Slavery and Freedom. Max and Monique Nemni argue that Berdyev's book influenced Trudeau's rejection of nationalism and separatism, and he kind of becomes a globalist. And for those of you who are wondering what Keynesian kind of politics is, I'll read you a little brief summation here. Keynesian economics is a macroeconomic theory that focuses on how aggregate demand affects economic output, inflation, and employment. It's named after British economist, John Maynard Keynes, who developed the theory in the 1930s to address the Great Depression, which was caused on purpose by globalists and bankers. But here we go. So here's some of the things that Keynesians believe. Aggregate demand is the most important driving force of the economy. That means aggregate demand is the sum of spending by household, businesses, and government. They're saying that's the driving force in economy. They believe that free markets don't naturally lead to full employment. They believe that unemployment is too high on average and too variable. The government intervention can achieve full employment and price stability. Keynesians advocate for increased government spending and lower taxes to stimulate demand. Keynesians economic is often used to describe a country's short-term economy, while the classical model is often used to describe a country's long-term economy. So basically, they believe in government intervention and socialism, which really, I mean, where can we go with that? A lot of places, because as you can see, it has a good intent. I'm sure people will see that and go, well, yeah, the government can put money and it can put money into social programs, and but that's short-lived. The problem is that's not where the economy comes from. The economy comes from the creation of goods and resources. The economy comes from allowing people to have free ideas and create solutions to problems and products and create something. You have to actually produce something with labor. And government in and of itself does not produce anything of value. You have to produce something of value. People have to want your service and need it. The only value they produce is to basically, manage certain things. And the whole idea of Keynesian, policies means that the government was able to take more control and have more say over policy and have more control over money and endlessly create different bureaus and bureaucrats and branches and three-letter agencies for all of the stuff that they think they can solve, but they don't do the one thing that they need to do to create a good economy, which is produce stuff of value. And that happens with people, with business people like, I guess Elon Musk and small business people. And that the other thing that's a problem with the Keynesian idea is that it starts to become a whole elite, it's filled with all these elite people, and they become a class, and they're not going to give up their positions. And it's also that we get corporations, big companies that are monopolies, and they get in there and they get their people into the government. Right. And so instead of passing laws or doing regulations that help the people or keeping the budget low that helps the people, that keeps inflation low, they do things for the corporation. And then so on and so on. They start to begin to do these things for bottom lines, for propaganda, for whatever. They don't do things for what's the best of the country and the people. That's why I agree that they need to limit the government. But that is kind of what he means in a nutshell. So what Pierre Elliot Trudeau came and did was he transformed all of Canada. So he basically started doing huge government spending. And I think temporarily that kind of government spending works, but in the big picture, I think it creates more inflation. I don't think it works in the big picture because it's just taking money. You can't lower people's taxes and keep spending. Where do you get the money? You get it from the people. Well, and if you keep spending, you need more taxes, you need more money, you need to create, and all that's happened over time is there's more taxes. There's taxes on fuels, there's a GST tax, there's a tax on, you think of it, they make a tax for it. I'm pretty sure they're going to do a breathing tax pretty soon. You can't, you're taking up way too much oxygen, carbon footprint person there. And so you see, they just tax you into oblivion, so you're a slave and they're controlling you. And so this whole idea gives too much power to government. It makes government have too much power. And this is what Pierre Elliott Trudeau essentially believes in. And he followed up. He also, let's see if I have this here. As a minister, Trudeau liberalized divorce and abortion laws. He decriminalized homosexuality. Trudeau's outgoing personality and charismatic nature caused a media sensation, inspiring Trudeau-mania, which people got sick of him eventually, and helped him to win the leadership in 1968. So he was very pro. It's like handing out free stuff so you get elected. And I mean, that's why, Kamala Harris was trying to do. I'll give you guys, free this, free that. You'll get your abortions. You'll get some money. You'll get a tax break. You'll get a tax credit. You'll get access to loans for a mortgage if you're a legal immigrant. They're literally going to transform things into a one-party state. Total corruption. And I was so shocked to learn that he was against Quebec nationalism because he was French and he was from Quebec. It was really surprised me that he was so against it, but he was for, and he's the one who really started this concept of Canada as a multicultural country. It's not that Canada didn't have immigrants before it did, and it would bring certain people from certain areas of the country depending on what Canada needed. Like if you needed farmers, you'd go to Ukraine or Poland, right? There was a lot of people that came in the 70s that were from Eastern Europe that were trying to escape communism, fascism type of governments. Before that, there was probably Italians and there's probably Jewish immigrants, and a lot of the base of Canada is English and French. That's the two, Ontario and Quebec. But he really pushed this multiculturalism of all different cultures. And I think in the short term, you can see what they're trying to do. They're trying to fill a working quota, but in the long term, these cultures don't mix. And I honestly think what they do is they go to other countries, they invade certain areas, they help each other take over different areas, create coups, bring down the government, and then they just start taking their people and importing them into their country. And all the while they're encouraging white people not to have children, to get abortions, not to get married, just to have fun. It's all about you. But they still need to bring people in for population, for they need taxes. They need people to work and pay taxes, even though they tell you they don't. Um, I think it's just a system that just really weighs down a country. And I don't think in the bigger picture, it actually works socially, because it erodes the fabric of the people and their heritage who actually started North America and made it great, which is, European cultures. It erodes that, and we'll see it all collapse. And I was talking to my husband earlier. I texted him a message and I said, and they were talking about this on Candace. One of the reasons that they want to do this, these elite liberal freaks who are accused of sex slavery, is they want to take out Europeans, because Europeans, I hate to say this, not all, but Europeans and Americans are harder to control. They tend to fight back more. They tend to be like, no, no, and question things. And it's true culturally. I read a book about this. That's why they had a lot of problems with certain flights, is because people in different countries, if someone was a captain and their superior, they wouldn't question them because they looked at them like a king. And so if they were a human and making a mistake, the plane would crash. And even if their co-pilot saw something, they wouldn't dare question the captain, because this had this hierarchy. That wouldn't happen in America. Someone would be like, hell no, I'm questioning you. This is my right. And we have that mentality in a lot of European countries, Canada, and mostly in America. And they don't like that. They want that gone. They want to break up our culture and kill that so they can be masters of the world. And if they have to, they'll kill us all. That's literally how crazy the CIA is. I've got some more clips here of Pierre, Elliot, Trudeau. Let's see, which one should we go into? This is him talking about, this is his famous clip. He had a lot of political problems. I think he had some terrorist issues going on. And he wasn't necessarily a guy who didn't believe in law and order, ironically, for all of his purposes, especially if it was directed, at him. So here's this famous clip of him where he says, "Watch me."
Of society that you live in. There's a lot of bleeding hearts around who just don't like to see people with helmets and guns. All I can say is go on and bleed, but it's more important to keep law and order in this society than to be worried about weak-kneed people who don't like the looks of a
at any cost? At any cost? How far would you go with that? How far would you extend that?
Well, just watch me.
And then we got this one here.
Afraid that the mass media are tending to try to make citizens experts on everything. Too many people listen to the news at 11 o'clock every night. Only about 1/10 of you should be listening to that news. Not because I don't want you to be informed, but because I don't want you to have bad dreams. And, the world is not as bad as the news has to make it. You wouldn't listen to the news if it weren't exciting, if they just said, well, today was another good day for Canada, employment went up a little bit, and so many children were born. It wouldn't be news. So you listen to the news, my God, there's murders here, and people are dying over there, and there's a famine here, there's been another war here, and a nuclear outburst in the next place, and unemployment.
Sorry, re-put that. I don't know. I mean, I kind of agree sometimes. Now, today, we're like, don't watch the news. The citizens are the journalists. But I don't know if he would have agreed with that. And he certainly, I don't know that he had as much control over the media as his son does now. I think his son, okay, I know, we all think Pierre is not the father, that Castro is Justin's daddy. I get it. But just for the purposes of the show, we'll say his son. But his son has such immaculate control of CBC, and I think a lot of rules and regulations must have changed, and he probably changed them to have that control, including the funding of the CBC and all those TV stations. They get so much money from Justin Trudeau, and he said, I think Justin Trudeau is nastier and more arrogant than his father, to be quite honest. I think he really is, and he has much more control, I think, over the mainstream media. And in fact, if you want to get a story out about Justin Trudeau, you really have to have some American independent journalists crack it, which is why I'm talking about them right now today, because there was that story basically of Justin with that girl that he paid, a student that he had an illicit affair with, like $2 million. And the Canadian media will say it's a lie right up to this day, but an American news journalist had to write about it, and it's quite factual that it did happen. But she's signed a non-disclosure, so she'll never say anything for fear of her own life, right? Okay. So I'm going to share this one because there's some questions here about the Trudeau family. I had some article too. He has the three boys. Pierre, Elliot Trudeau married Margaret Trudeau, and as you know about her, she was like she was a crazy free wild child, and everybody knew that. But the report is that was the kind of woman that Pierre Elliot Trudeau liked. He liked mentally unstable women like that. And if he's involved in these kind of child trafficking that Annika Lucas is alleging, that would make sense why he wanted someone who is very unstable, such as Margaret Trudeau. She's an attractive woman, but she was off having flings and affairs, and I don't think he cared, because I think he had clearly his weird fetish thing in secret that he was going after. Clearly, he had something really disturbing going on. And of course, he married her while he was prime minister. She had 3 boys with him. She had Justin, apparently with him. She had Michael and Sasha Trudeau. And right around that time, I did have a clip of her, and I don't know why I didn't upload it. It was really her talking. I mean, she was off in La La Land. She was trying to bed the Rolling Stones. She was over with Fidel Castro. She was trying to write a book. She was being a photographer. She was trying to star in movies in France. Like, she thought she was literally, I think she had that. I think she was probably more histrionic. I think she had this idea of herself as this massive celebrity. I think the idea in her head was bigger than what she actually was, and she was able to get to that status because her husband was the Prime Minister of Canada, and obviously very popular. There was, I can't believe I didn't upload it, but I had one where basically Pierre Elliott Trudeau had this masculine, way more masculine presentation of himself than Justin. He was, out camping. He would always make sure to present himself as like people. He would wear casual clothes a lot of times with a backpack. There was, footage of him like in a canoe, like old style Quebec canoe, like lumberjack jacket, like looking like he's like from the 1850s, about to go get some maple syrup from a tree, or whack a bear or something. Like, he literally put that manliness off, but also like this casual, I'm just like you kind of person. And we know he wasn't. We know he's really elite. It's kind of disturbing. But he really, I think that's part of the, we got, if anyone looks like a reptile, it's that guy. He does kind of have this reptile look. He's much better looking when he was younger, but he did have a weird look to him. Annika saying cold, cruel, a man who liked to torture and possibly kill. Now, Patrick David Bett, I'm messing his name up. He made a good point though, and it's something to be aware of. I'm gonna play a little devil's advocate here, and he said, "Look, a lot of people who are accusers come out after the people are dead. So Pierre Elliot Trudeau is no longer alive. You're making these accusations of him. Isn't that a little, But I mean, David Rockefeller's still alive, and I can see the point of that." But I can also say that, sometimes you can't move on things till that abuser's gone, or you can't do things or change things in your life until the person that was heavily abusing or manipulating you or in some key position is gone. And so I don't know if I think that that's legit or not, because there are people who came out while he was still alive. Like I said, that Kathy O'Brien lady wrote a book in 1995. And she's named him. She named Brian Mulroney. Also, I said in the other video that I did that I'd voted for Jean Chrétien, who was a Liberal Party leader. And I didn't know that. I don't have any proof right here to tie him, but there's some loose allegations that he was involved in stuff like this, activities too. The only thing I could find on Jean Chrétien, former prime minister who's still alive, is that his son was accused of sexual assault in early 2000s, but his son went to trial and his son was found not guilty. I don't know if someone paid or influenced that. We know there's different rules of law for, say, people like Hunter Biden, who just got pardoned from everything from 2014 on, I might add. Interesting and curious. But that's 3 prime ministers, 3 of them, that have been linked to or mentioned in who all had personalities that people liked, that endeared people to vote for them enough times. And their kids are very strange too. Like Brian Mulroney, his son is Ben Mulroney, and he allegedly had like bisexual flings and orgies with Justin Trudeau and other people when they were like in their 20s, and they're all given positions. They just, you see Ben Mulroney on like some kind of major media TV show, and he got that position because his father was a prime minister. He didn't get it because he's hot or particularly talented, right? It's so crazy. But if those 3 are accused of it, you got to wonder what else. And like I said in the first show, when I briefly mentioned Pierre Elliott Trudeau, when he came in, he changed the face of Canada. He took a really conservative Catholic Quebec and started to change it and carried that out throughout Canada, where pro-abortion, pro-gay, I'm not saying that gay people shouldn't have equal rights either, by the way. I believe they should. They're humans. We all should have human rights. He was basically a globalist. He wanted tons of immigration, tons of multicultural. He came up with the multiculturalism idea and pushed that on Canadians. And I'm sure he was the start of political correctness in Canada. And you really start to see, it's not just, wear your seatbelt so you don't die. It starts becoming, you can't say this word. Merry Christmas is bad. Again, targeting Christians because, trying to make us feel guilty, trying to use our empathy against us. Don't say Merry Christmas. Now, this isn't your country anymore. We have other people here and you have to be respectful. Just say Happy Holidays. And pretty soon you won't be able to say that. And you've got to push back somewhere. So he was starting that. And I don't know who was, it was probably like Jimmy, he would have even before Jimmy Carter. Because he's in 68. Who was in 68 in America? Was it, let me know, guys. But yeah, so he was doing major socialist reform, and that was what I grew up with. I didn't know any difference, and still I really started to look at what was happening with his son. His son was like socialism on steroids. His son is actually an outright tyrant. And we go through this, interestingly enough, I'll play a clip in a bit of Candace Owens. I love Candace. She's talking with CIA, an ex-CIA whistleblower about Trudeau. Before I do, I'm going to play this clip where the Trudeau mania starts to slip and fall, but he still remained an influential guy, and it starts to slip and fall, and his party wants to kick him out. And that's the crux in Canada. Is in Canada, you don't register to a party. You can register to vote, but you don't have to register to a party, and you don't get to elect who's going to be the leader of that party. The party chooses the leader. And then even worse, that leader can run more than 2 terms. They can keep running as long as the party keeps them in. They can keep running as prime minister and stay in power for a long time. And Justin Trudeau's been there for 9 years. He's been causing havoc. And as you know, Donald Trump has given Justin Trudeau the smackdown, as it will, telling him, well, if you don't want to pay the tariffs and you want to put everything on America, maybe Canada should become the 51st state. I don't know that will realistically happen. I think he's just really trying to humiliate and emasculate Justin Trudeau. Not that he really has to. Justin does that perfectly fine, emasculates himself perfectly fine. Anyways, I'm going to show you a clip where they're basically his party's trying to oust him now. He ran from 68, I believe, till 79, and then he ran, let me tell you here, because there was a period of time he wasn't in, he got out, then he was in again. So I think it was, he was prime minister from 68 to 79. There was a year where he wasn't. I don't know what happened. Someone took over, and then he came back in from 80 to 84. There's a kerfuffle there, interestingly enough. So in this video, it's 84, and they want him out. They want him out. They want another leader in because they're realizing that a conservative, the Tory guy, will probably get in. Check it out.
We're saying that Trudeau has decided not to make any announcement until after the federal budget, expected about the end of February. That's not soon enough for a lot of Ontario backbench Liberal MPs. They say they're going to tell Trudeau at the Liberal caucus this coming Wednesday that he must announce his retirement soon if the party is to have any chance against the Conservatives in the next federal election.
Retirement doesn't seem to be your style. Is it your style now?
I'm not retiring. I'm going to stay on Prime Minister for a few more months, and then I'll work at something else.
What do you have in mind? What else?
Any offers? I'm waiting for the best.
The Trudeau years are fast coming to a close. For many Canadians, he's really the only prime minister they've ever known. That era will probably be over by the end of June.
The run for the roads has pushed forward 2 very different men.
I will leave you the roads, okay?
Jean Chrétien thinks it's a job that lets you fix things. John Turner believes it's his destiny.
From the moment Pierre Trudeau dropped the rose, the future of the Liberal Party has been up for grabs. Not only who's going to lead it, but in what directions.
It was a moment of clear joy. The so-called crown prince of the Liberal Party, the man who would be Prime Minister, swept to victory on the second ballot. When Pierre Trudeau steps down, John Turner will be Prime Minister.
Pierre Trudeau arrived at the convention in a limousine, but he spent the day just like the other 3,500 Liberal delegates, enjoying the hoopla. This was Trudeau's reaction as the final vote results were announced. 16 years ago, it was Pierre Trudeau on center stage, and Canadians were in for a decade and a half of irreverent, unforgettable leadership. Those days are almost over. For John Turner, there was a gracious handshake and a few shared words. For Jean Chrétien, a special moment between 2 men who share the same Canadian heritage.
For Canadians, it will be the beginning of a new era, where hope, confidence, and compassion will be the guiding aims.
But the real campaign is just beginning. Turner has to call a federal election very soon and then lead his party against Brian Mulroney's Conservatives. One of the big questions now is, when will Turner go to the people?
Oh, spoiler alert, Turner didn't win. Brian Mulroney won. So it didn't matter if they swapped him out. But you see in that one portion, Jean Chrétien was there with Pierre Elliot Trudeau. They're both French Canadians. I voted for Jean Chrétien. He came a prime minister in the 90s. It would have been in the 90s because, let's see. Yeah, it would have been in the 90s. I think I was like 19 or 20. And I voted for him. I might have voted for him twice if the elections lined up. But, if these stories are true, a lot of these guys I don't think it matters. I think it doesn't matter that Brian Mulroney got in. I think that was part of the plan. I don't think Mr. John Turner there was ever going to get in. I think it's all part of the plan and they know it. And they're all in cahoots together. So come on now. Brian Mulroney's kids and Pierre Elliot Trudeau's son, Justin Trudeau, they all know each other. These guys they're in cahoots. They all go to these meetings. They're all like, once they get in, and they may even be installed, they're right there. They're all going to these meetings. They're all being serviced with prostitutes. They're all, God knows what weird, creepy sex things that they have. And according to Annika Lucas and Kathy O'Brien, Pierre Elliott Trudeau is one sadistic SOB. Now, again, we're probably never going to have the smoking gun to admit this, but like I said, there is this European aristocracy, and I think they're in charge and of a lot more than we realize, and they are calling the shots from Europe and influencing politics here. In 1968, Nixon was in power. That's right. Thank you. So I asked who was in power in the U.S. and Nixon. And remember, Nixon had Watergate. And it's coming out now that Watergate was actually a coup, that he didn't break into the Democrats building, and that fellow, what was his name? The one who was doing all the stuff about Watergate was actually like a Mockingbird CIA guy who just spread disinformation. I forgot his name. They talked about him on Candace's show today. But Nixon was ousted by Democrats. In a coup, because he wouldn't go with their creepy agenda that they have. And I think a lot of the agendas correlate from country to country. You wouldn't be surprised to find it. But Pierre Elliott really changed the face of Canada, like I said. And some things might be positive, but I think there's only so much you can do with this socialism. It only goes so far. It's nice to have a security net for people who might lose their job, but you have to have a resource-based, value-based, product-based, service-based. You have to have value that you're constantly creating. And of course, Justin Trudeau today has totally destroyed the economy in Canada, the oil, anything that Canada had going. You can bet he's destroyed it, and he's replaced it with fake economy. They lie. They're like, oh, we've got this deal and that deal. They pay these people to do these deals to make it look like there's an economy that there isn't. It's all fake. They're kind of like China. They just fake it. They're kind of like Kamala. They just fake their whole campaign and make it look like they're amazing and doing something they're not doing. They're psychopaths, okay? So you're like, okay, well, what's up here? I want to talk about how weird this family is. I don't have video footage. I don't have like a Diddy list or a Diddy video to say, hey, there's Pierre Elliott Trudeau, but there's something very strange about his behavior. And he did attend the Bilderberg meeting in 1968. I don't have him on in the early 70s when she was talking about it, but that doesn't mean she didn't go somewhere else or he wasn't there in some other mansion. She was from Belgium, and apparently her own mother got her into this. She was targeted by someone else, and then her mother began taking her to these things, and she was tortured and just horrific. I encourage you to check that out. But it's a really graphic. But I wanted to talk about how bizarre the family is, besides the fact of their total communist, socialistic, crazy thinking. And Justin Trudeau has taken it to a level beyond his father, way beyond his father. I want to talk about some suspicious stuff within their own family. And so we're going to go back to sharing the screen. Let's take this off. Let's see. I think I have this. There's some stuff you can't find. You literally have to go to Yandex or something else to find some of this information. So I'll put this over here, and we will we'll share this one. And it's talking about the mysterious death of his brother, Michael Trudeau. There's his brother. You see how different they look? Check that out. See if I can close up on this. Look how different him and his brother Michael look. So different. It's like you would never have thought they were brother. You wouldn't be like, hey, those two are related. Of course, I mean, I had uncles and they look totally different. So it's possible. They don't look anything alike. They're very different personalities and looks to them. So that's him and his brother Michael. And his brother Michael died in a horrific accident. It was an avalanche. And here's some crazy stuff. Check this out. The death of Michael Trudeau happened on Friday the 13th, November 1998. It occurred to a freak accident in the Canadian Rocky Mountains at a time of year when the snowpacks are low and avalanches are very rare. An avalanche in the month of November is so unlikely. I mean, the snowpacks just aren't built up enough. And a lot of places there's not that much snow where you're going to go. He's right. It's very rare. Evan Manners, manager of the Avalanche Centre in Revelstoke, BC, stated that before the Trudeau death, he had never heard of an avalanche pushing someone into the water who then drowned. It's very rare. In an interesting coincidence that may not be a coincidence at all, Michael Trudeau was nearly killed on July 17th of 1998, 5 months previous to his actual death, when his motor vehicle was broadsided by another vehicle while he was driving in Portage La Prairie, Manitoba. So this alleged accident was so powerful that the truck Michael Trudeau was driving rolled over several times and was a complete write-off, but he survived that. Now, as to the avalanche that apparently swept his body into a river and drowned him, the media at the time reported that the police carried out an extensive search, but the body of Michael Trudeau has never been found, which is a surprising event because the spot where he allegedly went under the water is well known, and there were no reported currents in the lake that would carry the body away. A person claiming to have been with the young Trudeau on the ski trip informed the CAP in 2021 that the family chose to leave his body in the lake, which is kind of odd. They're saying helicopter crews saw no sign of the youngest son of the former Prime Minister, Pierre Trudeau, during an aerial search on Monday over the mountain lake where he is believed to have drowned. Michael Trudeau died on the Friday of the previous week. Why did it take 3 days before a helicopter search occurred? I don't know if there was weather issues or what was going on. Likely it was the body was beneath the surface of the lake. November in Revelstoke, BC, is not known for balmy climates. In warm, shallow water, decomposition works quickly, surfacing a corpse within 2 or 3 days. Cold water slows decay, and people who drown in deep lakes, 30 meters or below, may never surface. The body of water is relatively small. It takes a mere 15 to 20 minutes to walk the length of the lake. Michael Trudeau died on Friday the 13th. No report exists verifying that either of his parents traveled to the location of the drowning to view the situation for themselves. Why would they refrain from viewing the site of their son's death? A spokesperson for Pierre Trudeau issued a statement saying Michael's parents were deeply saddened. A statement from a spokesperson for Pierre Trudeau. You mean to say this erudite ex-prime minister could not personally issue a statement? And then they go on to say, the day after the death of a matter-of-fact article from CBC News appeared, police say 23-year-old Michael Trudeau was skiing with friends when an avalanche swept him into a lake known as Kokanee Lake. He is presumed to have drowned. Yeah, and so they didn't recover the body. They didn't anything. It's bizarre. It was very a bizarre situation. Now, I mean, I can't say exclusively if they did something but it's weird that an avalanche in a low avalanche, where there's hardly any snow, sweeps his body into a river or a lake where they should have been able to locate it. And he's just not there, and they don't want to further investigate or look for his body or anything. They just have a low-key thing and say their memories, and there's footage. They look sad, and it's a strange situation. There's some questionable stuff. I don't know what that means, but people have always questioned his death. and why he died, or how he died, or who else was involved. It would be interesting to talk to the people he was there skiing with. Very interesting. That's the story on that. Now, here's something I didn't know about Pierre Elliott Trudeau. And I'm going to see if I can find this story. I had it popped up. He has a daughter. He does. He has a daughter. And I'm going to see if I can find that story again, because I had no idea he has had a daughter. But of course, it's not with Margaret Trudeau. Her name is Sarah Elizabeth Coyne. Sarah Elizabeth Coyne. Interesting. And apparently he had her let's see, I'm trying to find that article. Here it is. I got it. Okay, we'll share this one here. I found it. I had closed it off, but he has a daughter that he would never acknowledge, and he was having some kind of tryst with some woman that they say isn't really his type, and she became pregnant, and he was like, nope, not happening. We ain't doing that one. So at 71, Pierre Trudeau had secretly fathered a baby girl named Sarah. The mother was a constitutional lawyer named Deborah Coyne, who was 36. So he's 71, and he has a kid with somebody who's 35, basically half his age. Wow, it's so crazy. So Deborah has changed her mind about private life. She has written a book, an ebook, Unscripted, A Life Devoted to Building a Better Canada. Sandwiched, like, oh boy, between the dry bread of policy is her account of her life with and mostly without Pierre Trudeau. She is very, very clear that she doesn't need sympathy. Anyways, what does she say? Deborah was nothing like the women that Pierre preferred. Gorgeous, lively, artistic, and unstable. That's what Pierre liked. He liked the crazy Margaret Trudeau types, and apparently children. She was smart, earnest, policy wonk, the daughter of old family friends. So he basically seduced the daughter of family friends. Okay, totally appropriate, totally normal behavior. So she sent him a paper she had written on North-South relations, and he invited her to lunch, and basically she felt she had met a kindred spirit, and she started an illicit affair. He would not settle down. He didn't want anything to do with her. He said he was focused on raising his boys, and she basically was with him for 15 years. I mean, you might as well say she's the other lady. She was just on the margins. And so basically a fling whenever he had time for her. And so she became pregnant. And he said instead of being a father, he played a distant role as like an uncle figure. This guy is really, really amazing. It shows you that he's cold. And I just find it interesting that she doesn't think that this guy's a narcissist. He stressed that Sarah and I wouldn't be able to just come by any time that they want. And he would just be kind of like an uncle figure. When Pierre died in 2000, she and Sarah walked a few steps behind Margaret and the boys. They were the shadow family. Deborah gave up a fledgling career in politics when she fell in love with Pierre. Later, she ran against Jack Layton for a federal seat, but she lost, and then she never ran again. That's NDP. Wow. Let's see. They're saying that she was infatuated. She doesn't say anything about her relationship with Justin Trudeau, who was 19 when his half-sister was born. You can't imagine he and Deborah are close. They're temperamental opposites. She has the gravitas and taste for policy that Trudeau lacks. Justin Trudeau lacks. He has the charm and good looks. Neither can remotely fill the shoes. Okay, so basically we've got a guy who has a daughter out of wedlock and wants to keep her in the shadows and nobody to know. He's basically banging one of his friends' kids. She's an adult now, but So we got someone who's commenting on Michael Trudeau's death. My husband is saying, it sounds like the first attempt failed and the second attempt was bullshit. Was bullshit. I don't know. It's odd that the whole thing of his death was odd. You can say tragic, but I don't know. Everyone handles grief differently. I think I would want them to keep looking, but maybe he thought, hey, I'm a communist. I want to keep the budget down. I don't know. I have no idea. Time of year, it's all relevant, but it's a bizarre death to happen. You literally don't hear about avalanches in November. There's just not enough snowfall. You know, I know Canada's wintry, and I know that area because I lived near there. But it's just, you just don't have that much snow yet. It's questionable. It's bizarre. So the guy's, got kids, and I mean, that happens. That doesn't mean he's a pedophile, crazy lunatic who's off getting children. But I think for me, what is really compelling about Annika's story, and Kathy O'Brien for that matter, is that there are people that are still alive that they've named, and they could get, if there was some reason that they could get sued, do you think Kathy O'Brien would have kind of said these things in 1995? No, she wouldn't have said those things. They wouldn't be saying these things. Do you think Annika would say that about David Rockefeller? No. She wouldn't, because she would be sued into oblivion. France has blocked her book. France has blocked Annika Lucas's book from being published. I believe she's like some kind of yoga therapy healing person that lives in New York. Very liberal minded, by the way, very liberal minded. She's definitely probably got very different politics than I have, but it's worth listening to this stuff, because this isn't just about, politicians being, having sex with someone who's an adult and it's consensual. This is about an elite satanic, and this is something I hadn't really mentioned to the thing, is that this is satanic ritual. This is being linked to child trafficking, murder, torture. Torture, like I was saying earlier, is the route to mind control. The MK Ultra. I'm gonna try to get somebody on about more MK Ultra stuff in the future, talking about linked to the Shining movie. There's a cool documentary out there about it. But this torture and trauma is how they control you. Why do you think they do these crazy psyops? Look, and for all Republicans out there who think that, October 7th for Israel was, some poor Palestinian Hamas guys on a parachute and they just took over that whole scene. No, Israel planned this one. This was planned. You got, and that's why they kept showing you all these pictures of all the trauma. I fell for it too. And my husband was like, no, this is total false flag psyops. They traumatize you because then they put the story into your mind about what they want you to believe. So they want you to be like, hey, it's all these people over here. We got to go get them. And they don't tell you that Israel created Hamas. They don't tell you that they funded it. You forget, then you're emotional and you don't say, hey, why is the Iron Dome not working? Like, why did they just shut it off for that period of time? Why didn't they respond for hours? Why were they? And there's a whole bunch of other information coming out of like Israelis killing and slaughtering all the people that were killed, that they said other people killed. The whole story about, 40 babies being beheaded, false. They put those things out to traumatize you because they know it's traumatizing and you'll react. And that's when they can insert, when you're traumatized and you're in pain and you're freaking out and you're emotional, they can do the mind control. And can you imagine if you're a child and they want to, turn you into some kind of sex slave spy, the intense MK Ultra torturing stuff that they can do. So don't think that they're your friends and they're decent people and they can't do it. Look, these people up in this echelon are psychopaths. And that's why I think there really is something to our story, because I know that 20% at the top of the CIA are psychopaths. I know that, a lot of these politicians are psychopaths. That's why they put them in there. That's why they get them elected. It's a crazy system. And they manipulate our emotions. They manipulate the votes. They know how to move lines in areas, to try to manipulate how election results will turn out. They love data, and that's why. These people are psychopaths. So I think there really is something to her. And when you look at Pierre Elliot Trudeau, looking kind of creepy, he had this persona as this manly man who was enigmatic. That's a perfect cover. It's a really good cover for somebody who behind the scenes has some kind of weird, sick, twisted, torture-esque preferences when it comes to sex, controlling little girls. And there's a lot of these elites that like to do that. Here we go. Incognito says, oh, they definitely killed him, referring to Michael Trudeau, but he didn't get swept into the lake by an avalanche. And then the body wasn't recovered. Well, it wasn't recovered because something else happened. Something else happened. It's just such a mysterious thing. Then you got to question, why? What was going on? What were they involved in? Was his father involved, or is his father just shutting up because he was told, threatened, and they took his son out? Like, you got to be like, what's going on? Were they manipulated? Are they puppets? Like, what is really going on here? We can ask these questions. Do they know all this information about this? They said their son was Alexander, the other one, but I always thought he was Sasha. I mean, they're all communists. The other brother that we don't hear much about, he loves China. He's pro-China, left, right, and center. There's Chinese private schools on Vancouver Island where I used to live, where they send all these Chinese students there to be educated. Chinese military operate, Chinese police stations. They've taken over most of Vancouver, buying properties and apartment buildings. You got Hell's Angels. Hell, when you had Pierre Elliot Trudeau come in and transform Canada, crime went crazy in Montreal. Gangsters were like, hell yeah. Criminals love progressives. Progressives are easy on crime. Conservatives and traditionalists are harder on crime and criminals. Progressive liberals, and I find it ironic in that video that Pierre Elliot Trudeau talked about bleeding hearts, because they are easy on crime and criminals love it when a liberal comes in, because they know they'll get a slap on the wrist, or they won't even go after them. Or even worse, I think there's a possibility that these people work with them. That Pierre Elliot Trudeau, Justin Trudeau work with these criminals. We know the CIA. We know Justin Trudeau works with the CIA. And I got a video clip on that to finish off this show. There's so many things that could be happening here, that these people are involved in such nefarious, evil stuff, that I am willing to buy the whole narrative from Annika Lucas that she saw Elliot Trudeau and maybe multiple times, and he was some sick, sadistic SOB. Let's check out what Candace Owens just today had to say to this ex-CIA whistleblower guy when they talked about Justin Trudeau. Here it goes.
Ask you about some world leaders in summation, because there's just a lot of weird stuff going on. Justin Trudeau, I mean, it just seems to be so much a part of the state apparatus, and really we saw during COVID his ability to just completely squeeze the freedoms of the Canadians.
Yeah.
What's your viewpoint on him?
Well, he's more, I think, has a communist leaning than even a socialist leaning. Hey, the guy's a tyrant, flat out tyrant. And what a lot of people don't know is the RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, are directly connected to the RCIA. And they work together, in one case to cover up an airline crash, so people didn't know what really happened there. So that you got that part of the Canadian government that is directly connected to our shadow government. And of course, Trudeau is their puppet. He's become a tyrant. There's no question about it. And I know a lot of Canadians. I was on a program yesterday with a Canadian, really upset with him. And he's losing popularity fast. But he's a deep stater from the word go. And as usual, all about his career, you know.
And
all right, interesting that talking about that RCMP worked with the CIA to cover up a plane crash. They like to cover up. It's just a plane crash. We don't know what happened. It's just an avalanche. We don't know what happened. You got to wonder what's going on, and it is just so crazy. So he's definitely a deep state asset, and I think it's good. Excuse me. that I've just had some soda. I think it's good that Daddy Trump is just giving it to him. He flew his ass over to Mar-a-Lago, Justin did, and he literally took it. Like, he was humiliated. And the people are talking about Canada becoming the 51st state. I'm sure there's some Canadians who would like that. I hope what happens, honestly, because I do love Canada. I love the Canada I knew. And even that Canada was infested with Pierre, Elliot Trudeau. His son totally ruined Canada. I hope that Pierre Poilievre gets in, and I hope he's not total deep state crazy. He could be. He could be. Let's be honest. They all could be. This could be a big play. We could just be screwed around. But I hope he gets in and actually balances the budget. Unlike Justin Trudeau, who thinks the budget balances itself, maybe we should get a real adult in there who doesn't act like a femi, gay guy who has colorful socks and just wants to attend pride parades and lash out at Canadians who are exercising their rights for peaceful protest. God forbid Canadians should show up and protest with bouncy castles. I mean, the Canadian Parliament is very much like the British Parliament, and that's why I don't like it, because nothing gets done. They just bitch at each other and complain, and it's boring and it's dumb. But the best one during all those protests was, do you remember the truckers? The truckers in Canada started a big revolution around the world for people protesting stuff with their farm equipments, their trucks and everything. And people were yelling honk honk for the truckers. It's because truckers honk their horn, right? Like honk honk. And the member of parliament said honk honk was secret code for Heil Hitler. Can you believe how stupid that is? And then months later, they literally had a Nazi in their parliament going, yay, and applauding him because they didn't realize that they didn't realize they had basically a Nazi guy in there. And the dude's like older than anything now. To persecute him would be a waste. Like, I wouldn't even bother with it now. But they're just so hypocritical, dumb, and ignorant, and you can tell that they're just really stupid in Canada. Like, a lot of the politicians are stupid, and the people who vote for Justin Trudeau are stupid. Pierre, I don't know what they can do. It's a whack. Like I said, Justin Trudeau, unless he gets kicked out, he can keep running and keep running and keep running. There's no term limits. He can keep running until he's an old man if they let him stay in there. I doubt he'd keep winning, but he could keep running potentially, and it's kind of disturbing. But then again, you have Barack Obama here, who he's not running, but he's calling some shots. He got Joe Biden in there, so I guess he can keep running around here too. And since the deep state's whole goal here is to control everything no matter what, I guess the joke's on us. Well, I don't know what to say anymore. I'm going to have a lighter topic next time besides psychotic politicians who are murdering, raping, and having sex with poor children who have been tortured, mind-controlled into being sex slaves and spies. Really, honestly. I apologize that I have a dry throat here. I apologize for that. But yeah, leave in the comments what you guys think. This is kind of getting into a ramble on, and I could keep going on about Pierre Elliot Trudeau, but there's something sketchy. He's been identified by multiple people. Other politicians in Canada have, and I'm sure all around the world. He's been identified attending things in Europe, attending Bilderberg meetings, attending and being sadistic. You let me know what you think, because I think there's definitely something strange going on here. I would love to get Annika Lucas's book. Check out more specifics of all of her cases, because she's making some claims against quite a few people, and it's very heartbreaking to watch her on Patrick David Bet or whatever. It's heartbreaking to watch her, because some of the stuff you can tell she doesn't want to say anything about it, and it's like revisiting trauma, and it's just you can tell she isn't faking the emotions anyways. But what will become of this? I don't know. I know what happens to someone who's been tortured all their childhood and has been used as a sex slave, you know. And Annika says you can be healed, and there's healing processes. I don't know. I think you could cope. I think you find coping mechanisms. But I think if you're that tortured and abused, there's going to be some things you have to get through, and some coping mechanisms you're definitely going to need. And I mean, I wish all the best to Annika and any other person. There's many more people who are coming out saying they were victims of these elite pigs, including the Trudeaus, including Mulrooney's, and those types, and the David, what do you call them? Oh God, I can't even remember half their names anymore. The Rockefellers or whatever. There's lots of other victims. So it's not just this girl, it's many, many children. Remember, hundreds of thousands of children go missing all the time, all over the place. And there's some children we don't even know. They don't even exist in a book. They don't even exist as a person, and they're used and probably murdered, and like she said, considered a throwaway child. It's really, really tragic. I'm glad you guys joined me tonight. Thank you for watching. Of course, remember to subscribe, thumbs up, share whatever channel you're on, and visit the website, genxonx.com. I'm running out of a voice. I'm hoping to have a guest on and do some more MK Ultra. I'll probably do a show on Thursday. I have no guest booked this week, so we'll see where it goes. I'm trying to get a couple people on for the next couple of weeks, and I'm going to take Christmas off, and we'll see where everything goes. But go to the website, genxonx.com, and look for all the links to the shows, and subscribe to get in on the live streams. I will see you guys later. I'm out of here. My voice needs a break, and yeah, God bless everybody and all the children who are ever involved in any kind of horrible tragedy like this.